Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Is it already time? Are we there?
It is time. It is there. We are there.
Yes. Let's go, baby.
We've got a couple additions that we've got from the chat here tonight that we'll throw into rapid fire as well. And now, I should say, for any newcomers in the show tonight, because this came up last night, rapid fire is the part of the show. We typically start with something Notre Dame football, and we've got a couple Notre Dame football questions that we start with tonight. We always start with something Notre Dame in rapid fire. But as we work through rapid fire, we will transition into other non-Notre Dame football related
People getting
topics.
upset about this or what?
Yes, we had somebody yet last night talk Notre Dame football.
Dude, it's not what rapid fire is.
That's right. Part of it is, but again, that's where we expand the topic base when we get into rapid fire, right?
Yep.
So
let's do it. I love this. I love it.
Let's start though with everyone's favorite, one of everyone's favorite topics, the young Irish linebackers. And I'm talking specifically about Jaylen Sneed, Prince Kollie, and Nolan Ziegler. After this weekend's scrimmage, defensive coordinator Al Golden discussed what could be in store for them this season.
There's no doubt. The three that you just mentioned are they're all going in the game. There's no doubt about it. They're all in the rotation, and PK was having a really good off season until he got banged up, and Sneed made a lot of progress as well. So it was great to see Sneed back out there, and I think Zig's off the field approach in terms of his preparation and his study in the game has made a big difference for him.
I just got to say it beforehand. Derek says, "Don't explain yourself, Sean." He's the one who stepped up last night. And
I love it. We can always count on Rumlock.
Yes, Rumlock, Derek. So scale of 1 to 10, how encouraged are you after hearing that from Al Golden?
I'd say about a 7, right? Because if I'm encouraged, I want to see them on the field, right? I think we all want to see them on the field. And I think we're going to see more of Prince Kollie and Jaylen Sneed than maybe Ziegler, maybe. I just think they're probably a little bit more game ready. But I've heard good things about him, but he didn't mention him. So that, when I listen to a coach talk, the first names that come to his mind that he talks about are the guys that I think he's you know what I mean? Like those are the guys that he wants to talk about for a reason. Now, maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. Maybe he's
he was asked specifically about those three guys,
right? But then he mentioned those two by name. Like he didn't mention Nolan. That's all I'm saying. But he said all three of them are going to see the field, and he was flat out like they're going to see the field. They're in the rotation, so that by itself is promising because I don't think that's ever been the case.
And that's exactly like I'd even put it, 7.5 hedging toward 8 even, just because that's the closest thing to, a proclamation about these guys that we've heard. I mean, he said they're going in the game. They're going to be in the game. Now, I don't know if he's including special teams because, they were all, Ziegler wasn't, but the other two were on special teams at points last year, mostly Prince Kollie. But like you said, he didn't mention Ziegler, but we've seen Ziegler in some of these sub packages out there, the nickel and the dime. And it's looking like because of the speed and the instincts that he has, that he's going to be, one, a big factor on special teams, and two, at least in those sub packages. And I think all three of them, that's where they find a place, with the speed that they have, the things that they can do from a coverage standpoint that some of the other guys can't do. So I'm really encouraged, because again, we haven't heard anyone come out and say these guys are going to be playing. And Al Golden said these guys are going to be playing. So if I'm going to take him at his word, and there's no reason not to right now, I'm pretty encouraged by that. So my ears definitely perked up when I heard him say that.
I see Kollie and Sneed playing more first and second down type stuff. And I see Ziegler being more of a sub package guy. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I see it at the moment.
But then first and second down type stuff, then what are you doing with those other veterans?
Well,
they're still pretty high on the veterans as well. So
I think the veterans start, but I think the other guys are going to sub in,
like they're getting into that rotation, like the
right. And I think that
series or something like that,
right. And I think that rotation would be first and second down, while those other guys are on the sideline.
Yeah, I could see that
in a rotation. Does that make sense? Like they're not, but we'll see. I mean, I'm intrigued by the fact that he says they're going to get on the field. And that's great.
Yeah, me too. So Jared Parker, he talked. I guess I actually asked him this question. If he has seen any inklings. Speaking of young guys, any inklings that these 3 freshman early enrollees that they might be able to see the field this fall. And here's his answer to that.
Fair. You know, it's no need to put pressure on those guys. They'll put enough on themselves, and this place does that because of expectations. They're right where they need to be. All of them show great promise. They're eager, and they're figuring it out. And that takes a little bit of the bumpy road that Coach Free talks about, but the guys are here, they're eager, and they all 3 show great promise moving forward.
All right, so same question. Scale of 1 to 10, your encouragement hearing that about the freshman receivers.
4.
Contributing.
That's a 4 for me, because he showed that they show great promise. They're right where they should be. You know, that was a lot of coach speak to me about 3 guys that are doing what they're supposed to do, but nobody's standing out enough.
I kind of felt that way about a lot of his press conference, to be quite honest. That there was a lot of coach speak in there. You know, like
he's learning quick. He's learning
the salads around there. Yeah, yeah. I think my confidence is a tick lower than yours here. I put it like at a 3 because he started off with maybe, and you know, like it. When I heard that, it's like, you know, when you have little kids, I don't know how many times, you know, like if your kids asked you something, you know, like, can we go to the movie tonight, Dad? Or, you know, can we, you know, go do whatever? And you give them a maybe, they're like, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like, so you're saying there's a chance. You know, it's like,
right.
That's kind of how I felt about that.
You know, your kids are getting older when you tell them maybe, and they're like, yeah, that means no.
Yeah, whatever.
You know, they got you at that point.
Right.
My kids are well beyond that now.
That's exactly right. And you know, we know that there is some talent there. And again, I've got a feeling we're going to see at least 1 or 2 of these guys. You know, if we see all 3, who knows? But, you know, just that'll definitely be one. You know, it'll continue to be kind of one of the great questions going into this season, you know, because when Tommy Rees moved on, you essentially had that last deep-rooted connection to Brian Kelly and that whole, you know, how things went with freshman wide receivers through that era. I think that there was a lot of hope that maybe you could find, you know, like that a new set of eyes would look at it differently and find ways to get these guys on the field. But I'm, you know, again, it's like maybe he's just not showing his cards right now, but it's not the most encouraging answer.
No, it's not. And I, you know, I haven't seen a bunch, obviously. I just think that the top running guys they've looked really good, in my opinion. Like, is there a spot maybe for a freshman to maybe get a couple reps here and there? Sure. That's definitely possible, especially with the exit of Caleb Smith and the potential exit of Lorenzo Styles. I think that opens it up more, obviously, for these younger guys. But I also think that the emergence of Chris Tyree is a very good thing. And then, I mean, right now, Chris Tyree is your second slot, right? So you've got a rotation of 4 guys at minimum already before you even touch the freshman. 5 if you count Matt Salerno. Now, I know what people are going to say when you say that. I would personally rather have the freshman on the field than Matt Salerno.
Right.
Unless, you know, you're going to put him into block. I don't really have an issue with that. And I don't really care if the whole world knows that we're going to run the ball or that Notre Dame is going to run the ball if Matt Salerno is blocking. I don't care because I think Notre Dame can run the ball that well, right? So I don't have a problem with him being that kind of a rotation or is just somebody they got to keep an eye on or whatever. But you're talking 4 or 5 guys already before you even get to the freshmen. So I don't think they need to be these amazing guys. I think they've got some time to still get their sea legs under them.
Vince, breaking news from Twitter as we speak. Julian Roper, this is regarding Notre Dame men's basketball. Julian Roper will transfer to Notre Dame. He just made the announcement on Twitter. He's got a picture of himself in a Notre Dame uniform that he is committed.
Okay.
He played the last 2 years at Northwestern, averaged a little over 20 minutes a game in each season, averaged a little over 4 points per game in his first 2 seasons. So, not a huge score. He can shoot the three a little bit, 26 for 70 in his 2 seasons there. So Micah Shrewsbury in the first step toward rebuilding the Notre Dame men's basketball roster gets Julian Roper out of the transfer portal from Northwestern University. And obviously a guy that Shrewsbury has seen a little bit coaching previously at Penn State in the Big Ten.
So he has played for 2 years, you said?
Yes.
So he's not a grad transfer, which is interesting. I think that is a very interesting piece of the puzzle there. Now coming from Northwestern.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And that's kind of something that we talked about with Brandon Joseph with his transfer.
Right. Remember that was still an issue. Remember that?
Right. And he wasn't sure where his degree was coming from, but it was, I think the question was posed to Marcus Freeman at some point, if you're going to be able to get undergraduate transfers into Notre Dame, would maybe they have to come from some other like-minded academic institutions like Northwestern, your Vanderbilt, Stanford's, places like that. And it makes sense. So Julian Roper is coming in. So we'll see how that pans out.
So now they have 4 scholarship players with college experience, 5 if you count the incoming freshman, Marcus Burton. Right. So they got a starting 5 of scholarship players with a walk-on on the bench right now.
Yeah. Julian, according to Chi-Town, was an academic All-American. Okay. I mean, he's got good grades.
Smart kid, obviously. Yeah. That's great. That makes the transfer a lot easier.
Can he be all ACC?
Correct. And without the academic part.
As great as the academics are, it's not going to get him very far.
Hey,
on
academics are important.
He looks pretty athletic.
Okay.
So we'll see. I have to check out some film and see what he looks like.
Look at you scrolling Twitter while we're on the show.
The boss texted it to me.
So wow. Well, I know where I rank then. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
It's great. Thanks, bud.
Well, let's stay on the men's basketball subject. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Mike Brey will join the Atlanta Hawks coaching staff next season.
It's a bit surprising, but good for him. I mean, he'll be able to kind of fly under the radar as an assistant coach in the NBA. The nightlife in Atlanta is really good, so I'm sure he's going to have a great time living down there.
Uh-huh.
And I think this is a good step for him. He's a lot closer to Florida than he was before, where his grandkids
Very
are.
True.
So I think this is a win-win if you're Mike Brey.
That's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that aspect, about being close to his son and his grandkids. And
I was joking about the nightlife thing, kind of, but the grandkid thing I'm sure is important as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good spot for him. Quinn Snyder, he coached Quinn Snyder back at Duke in the late 80s, and Quinn Snyder is the head coach, of course, now in Atlanta. So there's a long connection there, and he visited down there a couple of weeks ago before the whole USF thing. And I guess it's been more than a couple of weeks ago. It's been more than a month ago at this point. But
yeah, it was like March 15th. I think I saw the picture was taken down there.
Right. Before the USF thing kind of came and went. And so now I think the NBA is a good place for him. When you talk about that loosest coach in America and all that kind of stuff, I think he's a great fit for working with NBA type guys, just the kind of personality he has.
Sure.
As an assistant as well. I'll be curious to see how long it lasts. Does he try to jump right? Does he try to get the first college head coaching job that comes open, in like a year from now or whatever. But, I will miss, I was kind of looking forward to potentially seeing him on TV a little bit. But
he'll be there. He'll just be sitting in a suit.
Yeah. If he wants to coach, I guess he's already bought a house down there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And everything.
I know his house up here sold. It sold a while ago. So he's been planning on being on the move wherever that was going to be. And you're right. I think this is a good spot for him. Like I said, he can kind of fly under the radar. It's always interesting to see what happens when a guy who has all the power as the head coach then takes an assistant job. How long can he handle taking orders as opposed to giving them? That's always an interesting thing to see. So how many years is he going to be able to be an assistant, or is he just going to ride this wave like the rest of the way? I mean, he's not a spring chicken, right? I mean, you can be an assistant on an NBA bench for a long time and make a lot of good money. So let's see what happens.
There's plenty of other guys who have done it. Kelvin Sampson, after his whole, thing down at IU, and he was out of it for a while. He was on an NBA bench for a few years, and he's back and up and running and firing away at Houston. And there have been some other guys as well. So good for him. Keep on keeping on. Andre 3000 wants to know, would you rather have an explosive passing game with running sprinkled in, or are more balanced attacks of run 50, pass 50 option? Equal, balanced only.
I would say in a perfect world, of course you want balance. You want to be able to run if you have to, throw if you have to, all of that, right? But man, if you can do it, now this is the key word. If you can do it, which means you have the personnel to do it, you have the right plays to do it, you have the right play caller to do it. I don't mind an explosive passing game with the running sprinkled in. I really don't. What I don't like is when teams think they have an explosive passing game and it's just 3 and out.
Right.
You're not good at it, whatever, and you're trying to be good at it. That's a no-go for me. That's when you need to be able to have a run game, right? So if you can do it, if you can be successful at it, there's no, I mean, come on. What's more fun than chucking the ball all over the yard, scoring a bunch of points? I mean, that's football. That's fun, right? But you got to be good at it, and that's not an easy thing to be good at.
And nobody's ever going to be true 50-50. They're just, that it just doesn't exist. I would prefer, and I think what they want to be with what they're set up with this year is an explosive smash mouth, run game type football team that also helps set up some of those explosive pass plays, because you have to be so conscious of the run game and play action and all that different kind of, like when you talk about pro style offense, like, because, the run sets up the pass, like how many times do you hear that? And I think the pass can also set up the run. The more dimensions you have to your offense, the better. Again, you're never going to be 50-50, but I would definitely take an explosive run game, because then you have also the ability, if you have that explosive passing game, you have the ability to downshift and, grind out games at the end, like you couldn't do essentially in the Fiesta Bowl. Like, we saw an explosive pass game there to start things off, but they didn't have the ability to close it out. So you still have to have both.
Yep. Completely agree with you. You absolutely need to have both if you want to be successful long-term. I mean, you just do. I mean, you make some great points in there, and I don't want it. Just is. You're absolutely right.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Notre Dame baseball will play Northwestern at Wrigley Field next month.
It's freaking awesome. I can't even tell you how much I want to go. Like, I'm really leaning on you on this one. We need to figure out how to call this game so that I can go to my deathbed saying that I called a game at
Wrigley Field.
Whatever they call the thing on the South Side these days, and at Wrigley Field. Both major league parks in Chicago. Check them off the list. Like, that needs to happen, Sean. It's awesome.
I don't know what I can do, but it is awesome. Like, this kind of came out of the blue.
It did. I have pull. You do. You have more power than you realize, young blood. You do. You have power, and I want to see you wield it.
I don't know about that. I don't know what power. I don't know what power I have. But you texted me this last night when they announced it. I was like, "Wow, where'd that come from?"
I didn't
realize this was happening. So
it's awesome. It's freaking awesome. Cool. Maybe at the very least, we just need to go to the game. I don't know.
I don't know if they'll, have adult beverage sales open that day, or what that's going to look like. But
I don't know, man. We might have to circle this one on the old calendar. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I concur. So Major League Baseball players are getting paid $10,000 a game for getting mic'd up and doing in-game interviews on national broadcasts for ESPN, Fox, and TBS. Do you buy or sell interviewing players during the games?
$10,000 is a drop in the bucket for a lot of Major League Baseball players, and I get that. But this is a huge, huge buy for me. A huge buy, because baseball of all sports is one where I think you can take advantage of having guys mic'd up and you can talk to them a little bit, right? I mean, there's less downtime now than there used to be with the pitch clock and all of that. And I understand that. And broadcasters are going to have to understand that when these guys need to lock in, they need to lock in. But there's time where you can talk to these guys. And I think it's good for Major League Baseball because you're going to get to know the personalities of some of these guys that I don't think that we know a whole lot about. And I think over a 162 game season, I love it. I think this is a great idea. And I think depending on who they start talking to and what it looks like and all that, I think that this is going to be really cool. And they're compensating the players to do it. I think this is a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, when I first heard of this, I wasn't really thrilled about it, and they've kind of dabbled with it, like in all-star games and stuff like that the last few years, I think, to kind of see how it would work. But I think it might have been like the first opening weekend. They had the Astros as the defending World Series champions. ESPN was doing their game or something, and they had Alec Bregman mic'd up, their third baseman, and they're out there talking to him, and you see him going through his whole pre-pitch ritual. And he would kind of stand there and talk while the pitcher has the ball, and then as the pitcher is getting ready, he starts getting down into a stance and all that kind of stuff, and he would kind of stop talking for a couple of seconds, as he's preparing for the pitch. So I think that professional athletes, they're capable of it. Would you want high school or college kids doing it? Absolutely not. But, I think these guys at the professional level, are able to kind of multitask out there, and they're able to focus on it. Like you said, 10 grand is like a drop of the bucket, but it seems like, good charity money, basically. Find a place to give it to charity. But
I like that.
It is, like with the pitch clock, it does make it a little bit more interesting because it's, just like with announcers, the players kind of have to speed up, the announcers have to get their questions in, and the players have to get their answers in pretty quickly as well.
I think there's a couple of positions, you obviously outfield, I think, is one of the easier ones to do. I think a first baseman would be good because then he can talk to some of the guys that get on base, that kind of a thing. Personally, I would love to have a catcher be mic'd up. I think that would be fun. But I know that there could be some issues with that as well. But when I was a catcher, I used to talk to the batters all the time.
I'm sure you did.
I would love that. I would love to hear some of that. And I would talk to the umpire and, the whole thing. So I think that would be really cool. But I think this is great. I think it's a great idea. Like I said, I think this is an opportunity because I think baseball right now is in a good place with some of these new rule changes. I still think the massive bases are weird looking.
Yeah, they are.
It's really weird when you watch a game. It's like
stolen bases are up
huge.
Though.
They
people
are
stealing between the bigger bases and the limited throws to first.
Yeah, which I'm all for. So I mean, if that's what if bozo shoe bases is what that takes, then okay, fine. But I think baseball's in a good place right now, and with the shorter game times and all of that, I think this is another way for them to kind of get their game into the lap of some younger viewers.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's one thing that baseball has really had a hard time figuring out is how they make these players relatable, to the audience, to the audience, to people watching, to young people, especially. And, they've cut off their own heads sometimes with some of their stupid social media limitations with what highlights you can share and all this different kind of stuff. So I think things like this are a great idea to basically introduce people to these players that you don't get. And it's obviously different than just showing a pre-recorded interview during a game, even if you're doing a superimposed, picture-in-picture box and that kind of stuff.
Completely agree.
I think it's pretty cool as well. Now, like I said, wasn't really sure when I first heard about it, but I think it's worked out pretty well for them so far. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for tonight.
All right.
We flew right by tonight.
We did. We did. I got to get to a track meet, Sean.
Do it well. You zip out the door.
I know, right?
Is Dylan running tonight?
He is not, but he was cleared yesterday. So now he's got to work on getting himself back into, running, not shape, but you know what I mean. So maybe next week, fingers crossed, get a couple meets in before the playoffs and add some patches to the old letter jacket. That's the plan.
Yeah. By the way, you've got your Penn sweatshirt on, and I hear a Hall of Fame basketball coach retired today.
He did. It was the news broke today. We kind of knew about it already, but yeah, the news broke. Al Rhodes is going to retire. Going to be very interesting to see the names that kind of pop up for that job, because I know that it is obviously it's a very coveted job, and there's still, even though Marcus Burton is moving on to Notre Dame, there's still a lot of talent, there at Penn that has not been very tested because it was an all-5 senior starting lineup this past year. But I think it's a good opportunity for Al Rhodes to kind of go off into the sunset.
Congratulations to him on a great career. I still get a kick out of seeing that old 40-year-old picture or whatever it is from when he was at Warsaw. It's like that.
He won the state championship in 1984. I was
84. Yep, almost 40 years ago. That's right.
Yep.
All right, good stuff, Vince. I will talk to you later, and we will talk to everybody else mañana. Thanks for being with us, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe, rate, and review. IB Nation Sports Talk.